How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation, time to get that imagination all cranked up, get into some creativity. It's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Carlos9. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over there. He is an amazing illustrator, artist, and creative. I feel like he's really mix of high illustration and draftsmanship, with wonderful painterly qualities and the crazy surrealist whimsicalness of Salvador Dali mixed in there as well. Really just love his sensibilities and his sense of pushing things. Like I said, great draftsmanship, really wonderful color, and then makes it completely surreal in all of his work. I think he's a phenomenal creative and really infuses his own style and his own personality into stuff and makes his own worlds come to life in such a unique way. Just gorgeous stuff. And I love this the style that he gets with his color, how he gets these swaths of little color throughout there. It's just gorgeous. Great silhouettes, great pushing those expressions and those caricatures even more. Just a wonderful, wonderful artist. He's one of those artists that's it's even hard to put into words how much and how creative he really is. Just gorgeous stuff. So I urge you guys to check out more stuff from him. I'll throw some links down in the description below. I think he is phenomenal. Just a wonderful artist. I did want to share a quote that I was able to come across from him, and he said, I appreciate the work of designers who seek their own path, who have mastered the technique and continue to try to get a picture and a story with personality. You can really see that come to life in his own work. He has his own path. I love this one as well. I really, Mobius does a lot of these too, where it's kind of a mix of high illustration with comic work, and I think it's just great. And you see a lot of that stuff in Mad Magazine as well too. Just a gorgeous work. But I did want to just mention in here as well that this kind of goes back to where we look at a lot of times of the importance of mastering the techniques and the fundamentals and the basics, and then once you understand those, chances are your own tastes and personalities and styling will start bleeding into there, and then you can create your own personality and your own stories and pictures that can just change the world. So let's go ahead and get into some animation. We're going to be continuing on with our Piggypiggyback shot here, and I think today we're going to be doing mostly hands and feet of these two characters. Here is going to be our main goal, and maybe a little bit in the jaw here on this, and maybe the head here. So we are using a lot of rigs here. We've got the Malcolm rig from Anim School, we've got Stewart from Animation Mentor, and we've got the Goon rig from How to Cheat in Maya. For information on those, check out the links in the description below if you guys want to play around with those for yourself. And let's go ahead and get in here. We are using Autodesk Maya 2014 as well for this video. So let's look at the arm here and turn off the other characters there, and just try and do a little bit of, let's see, should we do it on 4s? Do a little bit forward, just so we have a little bit of movement in there. Back. Oh, it should be on 8s, I would think, right? Yeah, do it on 8s, not 4s here. So forward there. Forward there. And back here. And forward here. Back there. Again, we don't want to do too much because we didn't really set up constraints to constrain the feet to the hands of the other characters. So we're just going to do a little bit that's just kind of keep alive in between here. Get a little bit of movement in there. And let's look at those elbows, and we'll go in at 4 over here, and then we'll go back a little bit, right? Up a little here, back a little there, up a little here, back a little there, here, there, and back. Should be, where did I get my timing off here? Should be 44 and 36 and 28. There. Now let's see if we cycled that correctly. Other way around, let's invert it here. And let's see. And we'll get in there a little bit more. Again, this is nothing that we're really going to want to see a lot of. We just want to have some movement throughout there. Maybe a little bit higher here. Let's see. Okay, and we'll look at the wrist here as well. I'm gonna go a little bit up there, drag it down, a little more up, drag it down, up here, down there, and back again. And bring that all up there. Let's see. Again, trying to keep it pretty much in the same universal space, but that way we get just a little bit of movement throughout there. Okay, and let's look at this arm. We'll do something similar here. 8 frames from there. We'll go back a little bit, forward a little bit, back a little bit, forward, back, and then back to where we started. And it should be forward here, or up more there, and down as it's coming in, up there, down as it's coming in, up here, down, and back again. Okay. Might need to readjust the other arm. I don't know why. Brain wasn't working too well getting that one set in, so we'll tweak this a little bit more. Bring that down, and up here, down there, up here, down there, and back. And it's probably a little too exaggerated, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Scale it back a little more. Okay, and let's take a look back here, make sure we're doing this right here. Yeah, we were maybe just needs to be a little more exaggerated. Wait, a little more in the arm too. Here. And I'm sure we'll have to tone that down, but we'll get there. Okay. And let's go ahead and look at the feet on Stewart here and try to keep them working with what we have. Again, I'm not going to get too tight with these, but just so that we have a little bit of movement here. So we'll go down a little bit there. Up a little bit here, and down there, up here, and down there, and up here, and back to where we started. And we could probably do a little bit of forward and back too. So do a little bit more forward there, a little more back, just so we have kind of a little bit of that circular movement here. A little more forward, a little more back there, and forward here, and back again. Okay. And get rid of all of those in-betweens there, and look at our translate Y. Get rid of all the guff we got in between. Alright, and let's just do a play blast and see how that works here. Alright, I think that's better. At least we see a little bit of movement in there. And we'll do a little bit of rotation in that foot as well. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get the translation of the other side working a little better for us. Go ahead and save the file here real quick. It's always good to save multiple versions and to save often. And wait for it to finish here saving. And we're back. Okay, so let's look at that foot again. And go here, lift that up a little bit. And we'll go 12. We'll go down a bit more. Up a little bit. We'll have to keep tweaking this till it looks a little better. Up a little bit more. And down. And then back to what we were before. And we'll go back there. And forward here. Go in a little bit more as well. it's working. And we'll go in there, back here, in there, back there, in there, back here, and back to where we were. Let's see if that works right for us. And let's just kind of frame through that. Other way around. I'm in a very inverted way today, evidently. Okay, we'll flip those forward here. And we don't need a lot of that, but a little will help us. And let's look at the other side. And we'll go forward here, back there, and forward here, back there, forward here, back there, and back again. Okay, now we're having definitely some intersection issues throughout here, so let's see if we can figure out where those were again. Here. Maybe it's just the rotation on this hand. It's a little too high. Maybe a little bit. And maybe just universally we'll push this arm a little bit further out here. Like that. And we'll keep that all the way through. Let's see. And we'll push the arm a little bit more. There. Okay, so let's see how this is working. Okay, let's do a play blast there, and then we'll move on to the arms and legs of the next character. Alright, I think that works. Not perfect, but it's a little bit more loose there. And then let's go ahead and look at the next connection, which would be between Stewart and the Goon rig here. And again, let's go ahead and save off our okay, and so we want Goon and Stewart, and turn off Malcolm for right now. Furthest back, or furthest forward at 8, so let's bring it back at 8, forward at 16, back there. I don't want the timing to be necessarily the same as Malcolm, so we'll probably end up tweaking this a little bit more, even if it's just by a frame or two. And let's get that balanced out a little bit better. Swings back, this should be in a little bit more, and then drag a little bit, in a little bit, and drag back, wrist. Pull it in a little bit. Here. Down a little bit more. Up a little bit. This might be hard to sell. We'll see. Might have to just favor the down position a bit more, just because we'll get a little too much intersection through that shin bone or whatever on the Goon rig here. And let's just look here. Have to do something, I think, a little more in between there. Let's see. Yeah, it's just too extreme there. Okay. Alright, something like that'll work. We'll tweak it up here in a sec. And then that one pulls back, that one should go forward a little bit. And back a bit. Forward there. And remember, these don't need to be too noticeable, but we just want to do some movement throughout these so that the arms and legs aren't so stiff here. And let's clean that up a little bit better. Push this back a little bit more. To start with here. That, there, there. Okay, and let's look at that elbow. Bring it down a little bit. Bring it up. And down a bit. And bring it up. Down a bit more. Bring it back up. And back to where we started again. Okay, and we'll drag that hand down there, up there, down there, up there, down there, up here, and back again. Okay, and let's look at the feet of our Goon rig here. Turn those controllers on. That's fine there. Go down there. Up here. And down there. Up here. Down there. Up here. And back again. Okay, and we'll do a little bit more forward here. Be careful that we're not intersecting through his chin too much. A little bit might work okay for us though. Just to show that there'd be like impact coming from there. A little bit further back there. And forward here. And back there. And forward here. And again back to where we were before. And get rid of any extraneous frames we don't need. I just have an extra one built in here. So we can just push that further forward a little bit more there. I think these should be pushed down or down a little bit more there. through, making sure that at least our keys are all working okay there. Those are all right. Okay, now let's look at this foot here, and we'll want to go up a little bit higher here, and down there, up a little bit more here. And normally I would say just constrain these together, but for some reason the interaction between these two characters was causing the constraint to move off of center, so we'd just be doing a ton of counter animating that way, and rather than do counter animating against a constraint, I'd rather just counter animate against the main controllers here, which is pretty much what we're doing right now with adding a little bit through there. So that's kind of the reasoning between picking doing a constraint with this or doing just this kind of counter animating between. And I could spend some time really working through why that constraint was going, but I think the time's better spent doing this, and then we can go through and really frame through it a little bit better as well. And rather than always relying on a constraint to do our work for us there. Should be a little bit more forward to begin with here too. Okay, let's do our rotations, and then we'll do another play blast. How are we doing on time for today? Okay, still have some time. Good. Okay. There should be a little bit of a drag there, and a little bit forward there. Drag there, forward, and this might be a little over exaggerated as well. We'll get back in there, tweak it up a bit more, and we're doing it 4 as well. Okay, and we'll even those out a little bit more and scale them back. Tweak this wrist a little more. What's that mean? To X here. Yeah. And we'll tweak the movement here as well. Let's look back at this foot here, and it would be going back a little bit there, but again we got to be careful that we're not intersecting through his chin too much. We can have a little bit of push through there, forward there, back there, and forward here, back there, forward here, and back again to where we started. And let's tweak rotate X a little bit on this hand, just hopefully avoid some of that collision or intersection through there. Make sure that we bring that all the way back there. Okay, so let's do another play blast and see how everything's looking together here. Alright, I think there might be a little too much in Goon's legs. They feel a little too noticeable, so maybe we'll tweak the up and down a little bit more, so there's a little bit less throughout there. I just feel like the way that we did Stewart's feel a little more natural, not as exaggerated. I still don't mind having some variety. We don't want them to feel so much the same, but let's go ahead and pull them back. Then I also want to pull back this arm. I think that arm's a little too exaggerated, and start getting into a little bit on the other arm there as well. So first of all, go ahead and turn Malcolm back off. Save our file again here real quick. Alright, so I just want to tone everything in our translate-wise back down a bit. And that also means we might have to tweak the rotation of Stewart's arms as well to allow for that movement to be adjusted as well. So let's look at those extremes and see if we need to adjust them anymore. Yeah. Okay, so let's look here. Go a little bit more there at least. And I'll keep tweaking that back. Also means that first position probably needs to be a little more in the middle there too. Okay, it's better. Like I said, it's just to try to get a little bit less movement in there since his legs are so brightly colored. Kind of causes a lot of attention to go there when there's decent amount of movement throughout there. Could also just change the color of him to be a little more muted, and we probably wouldn't tell as much, because I think that's one of the reasons also why Stewart seems to be working a little bit better, is just because it's not as bright when you see the legs bouncing around there. So that's another way we could approach it, but we don't want to cheat our way out of doing stuff either. Go up here and up here. Oh, I got the hiccups, excuse me. This should be our down, right? Yeah. I still want this rotate X to be a little bit more. Maybe it's rotate Z that we need to do here. And let's do another play blast. Also, I said I wanted to tone down this as well, so let's tone that down before we do another play blast here. Just a little too busy throughout. And bring that back. And that back. Okay, let's do another play blast again and see how that looks. Alright, it's a little bit better. Let's start getting into doing that other hand now, just so we have some movement on there as well. And basically it's just to try and keep it universally in kind of that same position that we have right now. So it's just going to be kind of counter animating there. We'll go here. just so that we kind of stay in the same universal space there. We'll need to go up there. It's kind of a double move, I guess, then here. Okay. Just kind of framing through there. Okay, and let's do a play blast of that, just see how that. Alright, that feels better. And let's go ahead and do a little bit on Malcolm's head, because I don't think we have any movement there on his neck at least. So let's do that, and then we'll try and see if we have time to do a little pass on all the fingers here as well. So let's look at, see if we can grab the controller for Malcolm's neck here, which would be this one. Okay, great. A little bit more there. Actually, it should be up here, down there. Be about a frame later. This would be down here, up there, right? Okay. Yeah, we might need to do a little bit less of this as well. We'll see. Just so we can get a little bit of movement there. Might be so finicky for me, huh? Here we go. Down there. Up here. Down there. Up here. Down, up, down, and back to where we were. Alright, it's probably a little too much, so we'll scale it back. And we'll try to do a little bit on the head now as well. Just so we can have a little bit of movement throughout his head, so it's not so stiff and locked off there. Let's look at his head controller. Is this it? It's the hair. There's the head one. Okay. I'll go a little bit forward there. A little bit back. A little bit forward. Back, forward, back, forward. Yeah, this might be a little too much too, but we'll start. We've got to start somewhere here. Okay, and balance that out a little bit more, and we'll tone it down as well. Let's do a play blast on that and see how that feels. Alright, well, we could push it further, but like I said, just give us a little bit of movement on his head so it wasn't so stiff. Now, we don't have a ton of time left, but let's try and do at least Goon's fingers, because I feel like those are the most noticeable. The other ones, I'd like to get a little bit of looseness in, but if we don't have time, I don't feel like that would be as noticeable, whereas these ones feeling in the same position definitely are. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off. And also what I want to do, I don't think this position and that position are the same, so let's try and bring them back to where we started here. Okay, and then let's look here. And let's bring, look at just the spread here, down a little bit, up a little bit, down, up, down, up, and down, up here, and down there, up here, and down there, and then back to where we started here. Let's look at the other fingers as well, the spread here. So this will be down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then we already have our back up here. And look at our thumb base. Let's go up a little bit here. We'll go down a little bit there. Up a little bit here. Where were we? We have one here, which is down more, up more. Gonna get rid of this one. And up here, down there, just so it's at a different timing than the rest of those fingers. Really loosen it up a little bit more. Let's take the little spread and we'll delay that a frame. And we'll get into the middle spread. And we'll add a little more variety there too. So we'll have some that are higher and some that are lower. It's not all at the same time, so it varies our posing a little bit more. And then let's look at this hand here. Let's see. Okay. So let's get just everything. We'll have a little bit of stretch out and squash down here. Down there, out here, down there, out here, down there, out here, and down there, and out here, there, and then back, and then we'll get all of the mids and tips. those a frame. All of the tips. And we'll delete those a frame. We'll take everything on our index. We'll push it forward a frame. Everything on our little. We'll push it back a frame. And let's look at our thumb here. We'll do a little bit of out in here as well, just so we have a little bit of variety there. And then we'll see how that plays out here for us. Make sure we circle back to where we started. Okay, so let's do a play blast and just kind of look and see how that came together. I'm thinking this might be a little too over-exaggerated in that hand. Alright, I think I'm going to tone down his head and neck a little bit more, just because since the way that we have the timing and movement on this arm, they feel very a little too similar, so I want to add a little more variation between those two, because I feel timing and the movement's a little too similar. So I'm just going to mute this a little bit more, which I like the amount of movement to it, but I don't want it to feel like it's the same as the arm there. And I don't think I want it to go a little bit later or sooner. I still like the timing of where both of those are. So we'll just add the amount variation. Now we've got a little bit of time left, so let's just try and do a little bit on this hand here. Maybe we could just delete this. Go out a little bit more. There we go. Don't have a ton of time, but I think we can do a little bit here. So I'll go ahead and set that one there. And we'll make it a little bit tighter here. There. Okay. And we'll just kind of vary between those ones. Again, it's not perfect, but if I want to try and get a rough pass on all of these fingers before that's a little better. And before, in the current time we have, we're going to have to do a couple little workarounds here. So let's go bring those in a little bit more. We'll go to 12. Out a little bit, and this one be out a little bit more. And actually, I think that's more of a hand pose problem there. Okay, and so I'll grab all of those, set that, and then we'll kind of flick between those two keys there, so we get that little bit of variation there. It's a little more mechanical than I usually like to do, but at least we'll be able to hit this all, and I don't know that I'll necessarily have a whole nother, unless we're really going into tight detail, polish and stuff, that I want to spend a whole nother episode together on this shot here. So let's look at all these. Let's go 4 here. Go that way. And this one we can go in a little bit tighter. We'll go flick between these ones. And then back to where we started there. Just so we have a little bit of movement variation in those fingers there. side. And still love to do some jaw movement and some blinks and just some other stuff to get those faces, a little bit dragging the nose, but I think we've got pretty good work session on this shot. Got the main idea working at least. Okay, and then we'll flick between those ones. Started, and then again, we're not even doing the mids and the tips on these fingers, just a real quick pass on all the stuff, and we'll take this one and put it forward frame, and this one we'll put it back frame, and this one forward frame. But that way we were able to touch all the things that we wanted to get into. That's good. Okay, and let's do a play blast, and we'll wrap this guy up here for today. Alright, it's okay, but before we wrap it up, I think I want to still tweak the head a little bit more on this character. I think we did it a little too flat now, at least for the neck. The neck's a little too stiff, so turn our curves back on, and let's create a little pillar for him to run on here. So I'll just take that rotate X and we'll crank it back up like another 10% or so. And let's go ahead and create a polygon primitives. Let's do a cylinder here. Okay, give it up. Let's go to a new perspective here. And create one there. And bring it down. Here, there, and we'll copy that one, and we'll paste another one, and we'll make that one a little bit bigger, a little bit shorter, just so we got a pillar for him to run on, a little platform. And then we'll copy this one, and we'll paste another one, make it a little bit bigger again. Shorter one more time. So we've got a little tiered platform here, and we'll grab the outside and the inside, we'll assign a new material on there, pop a Lambert on there, and make it a little bit darker there. Alright, and I think we'll go with that. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. I think that'll all still be in. Alright, I think that looks a little better. Like I said, we could still do a while more polishing everything up and pushing it, and then doing some stuff with the eyes and the mouth, and really getting into those fingers and doing those a little more interesting and stuff too. But I think we got the idea working, so that's great. And we started off looking at the beautiful work of Carlos 9, and he said, "I appreciate the work of designers who seek their own path, who have mastered the technique and continue to try to get a picture and a story with personality." Such a great quote. Definitely I would concur with him that the people that I resonate with most are people who have mastered the fundamentals and then bring their own sense of personality and perspective and the passion that they love and infuse that into their work, and it really shines. So I urge you guys to do that as well. I hope you carved out some time to work on your own dreams today. Thanks for sharing some time with me. I had fun doing this one with you guys. And yeah, I think that'll wrap it up for now. So keep being awesome. Thanks again for all the likes and subscribes. As always, the comment section is yours. Throw out any sort of links to the stuff that you're working on. Happy to give you some thumbs up or some encouragement. And with that being said, I think that'll do it. So we will see you for some more animation, some more imagination, some more creativity, and having fun and working on our dreams together